Everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and tonight I just got back from watching the newest Blumhouse horror movie, Night Swim, which, it's a horror movie dropped in January, which of course is never a good sign. That means they didn't have faith to put it out in October or even December holiday time. They're like, push to January. There's not much in theaters. People are gonna watch something. So here we have Night Swim, which, you watch the trailers, even the initial premise of it, right? Like, it's a haunted swimming pool, right? It sounds like a parody, it sounds like an SNL skit. They're just like making a joke, like, oh, it's the haunted slip and slide, the haunted sprinkler, so the haunted swimming pool. So this movie right away is kind of having to combat this admittedly really silly premise, right? Like, you think about it on the surface level, you're like, okay, just don't go in the pool. Or like most horror movies, you're like, just move, right? Like, just get out of the house then. And it feels like a lot of horror movies, especially hauntings, they always have to come up with some excuse as to like why the family doesn't just leave, or why they can't do this or do that. And to this movie's credit, they really try and go for it. Like, they have this whole thing where like the main father of this family, he's got this baseball injury, and swimming in the pool heals his injury. So he's like, oh, okay, the pool is magic, the pool is good for you, but, and this is the only explanation we ever get for what's going on, the pool comes at a cost. Like, it has to take a life in order to grant a wish. And I think this is something that, like, I don't know, it was just left really vague, and the only little exposition we get is from this very strange moment where someone who used to live in the house is still like possessed by the pool. It's real strange. They don't fully explain, like, like, okay, it used to be a spring lake and people made wishes to it, and then it also cost you a life. That's it. We're not told it's a demon or that something, like a spirit, or it's just somehow we just know these rules, and that's what we're going with. The other thing, and I'll admit this was clever. I was like, well, can't you just drain the pool, right? Just drain the pool or whatever. Their workaround for that is that, okay, this pool is actually being fed from an underground water supply from some stream somewhere. And, like, I don't know if this is a real thing. I've never heard of this before. But basically, yeah, it's like, okay, so instead of this being like a normal in-ground pool, it's actually like being naturally filled up by the water there, so like, oh, you can't just empty it because it'll just fill itself back up. Ooh, I've never heard of that before. I don't know if that was ever a real thing anywhere, but that's what they're telling us in this movie, is that's what this pool is and what's going on here. So any of the creatures or ghosts or monsters or spooky things you see in the pool water, those are just the ghosts of like the dead people that the pool has killed for exacting like whatever wish it fulfilled, right? So I think that is one thing, like, I want to get like an answer, even if it's gonna be like a silly generic answer. I would have rather gotten like an actual, like, okay, but it's a demon, it's the ghost of someone who died and now they're the ones haunting the pool. Like, what is it? It's just, no, it's like a wishing pool that, very loose explanation there. But so about the kills, about the actual scary moments, I will say, if you have a phobia of drowning, if you have a phobia of being in a pool at nighttime all alone, I can like see a scenario where, like, okay, it can get spooky, and this movie does have those moments. It does take advantage of like kind of that idea of being like isolated in the middle of a big pool, and like, what if something were to grab your feet, like, that's kind of just one of those instinctual fears that a lot of people have, and this movie is fully reliant on those, you know. So if you're someone who is scared that someone's gonna pull you underwater if you're in the pool or at the beach or whatever, this movie might get you, you know, because that's like basically all that this movie is. I will say, while it does have those good moments, one of which, of course, was like the main trailer for the movie, so they kind of ruined that one. It does definitely get very silly at times, you know, like there's parts where the pool has possessed people and they're running around and they're like, earlier there was a Marco Polo moment, so now the person running around the house is like, Marco, you're supposed to say Polo, and it's like it's trying to be spooky, but it's like, oh no, we're going back to SNL skit territory. There's even like this moment where the husband and wife are arguing and they're like there's something wrong with that pool, and he's like, that pool is the best thing that's ever happened to me, I love that pool. I'm like, okay, it's I don't know, like for some reason the more you say the word swimming pool in relation to the seriousness that you're trying to take the moment, it goes back to being silly again, you know. Like you could say like, oh, I saw something crazy out there and it's gonna kill us, like, okay, serious, but then you're like, that swimming pool is amazing. No, it's a haunted swimming pool, we gotta get away from that swimming pool. I'm like, I don't know what it is, something about like I can't take the word swimming pool in like a serious context, like, oh, but we gotta be scared of this thing. It's like, it just reminds me, I think, that this is haunted swimming pool, the movie. So I don't know, guys. I think the movie does legitimately have a couple of key moments that are actually like, okay, if you got these certain phobias, you're gonna be like, someone's gonna grab your feet and pull you underwater, and like it does that. But honestly, yeah, especially the third act where the guy's possessed and then he's chasing them around the house, and then they managed to hit him enough that he throws up the black goo stuff and now he's not possessed anymore. Like, you've seen this a million times, and yeah, it just kind of ends on a kind of a generic moment for like horror movies like this, where like, you know, the guy ends up having to sacrifice himself in order to satiate the curse or whatever. And then they kind of do something at the end of the movie, which I'm like, well, would this work? Because it feels like you established this might not work, but you're doing this as if it will. At the end of the movie, it shows them like a couple months later, they're filling up the pool with dirt. They just have like a big giant truck like backing up piles of dirt into the pool, and I'm like, well, you know, like, would that have worked the whole time? I don't know. Like, what about the whole natural spring and it filling itself back up? Like, are you just gonna create a giant mud puddle? My solution was gonna be that you just like, you pour a whole bunch of cement in there, you know, because even the little drain where the spring water is coming from, even that's gonna get like, you know, filled in with the cement. So like, that feels like more of a real final solution there than just pouring dirt in there, because water can kind of go through dirt, you know. So I don't know, guys, I don't know. Anyways, look, it's a very silly movie. They try their best to like come up with reasons why people keep going back in the damn pool. They have a pool party, but yeah, it's got its like moments, half of which are in the trailer. But yeah, it's silly. It's a January horror movie. Like I said, if you got nothing else to watch, you know, if you really just want to go to the movie theater, there's nothing else to watch, sure, why not? Just know that, you know, it's a January horror movie. This is, it's generic at best, you know. But like I said, if you're someone with those very specific, like, oh, being in a pool all alone at night, kind of spooky, then yeah, this might actually get you pretty good. So anyways, that is Night Swim, Night Swim, whatever it's called. Haunted Pool, the movie. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.